Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at 9 games here on Wednesday night for you guys. In this one, we're taking a look at the C's and the Cavs. We also have another game video up with my Knicks taking on the Nets, looking to pick on those Brooklyn Nets some more. We are. Also have our player props up for you that we're looking to continue to stay hot on those with you for this week as well. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page and follow along with us all season long and into the playoffs as well. Also want you to head to thelines.com. You can check out all of our great written content there and use that odds finder tool we have up there. Make sure you're shopping those lines, getting the best odds available to you from all those U.S. sports books out there this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get into this 9-game slate and then jump into our game, C's and Cavs.
Yeah, 9 games here on March 1st as we head down the stretch. We got Suns with KD expected to debut -10 at Charlotte. No LaMelo from the Hornets. The Bulls are -6 at the Pistons. Sixers -2 at Heat. Immediate rematch there. The other game we break down, Nets are +7.5 at the Knicks. These Cavs +5 at the Celtics. Low total of 218. Grizz -10 at Rockets. Bucks on a back-to-back. They're -7.5 at home against Orlando. Lakers on a back-to-back in a pick'em at the Thunder. Still no word on SGA, whether he will play. Of course, LeBron is out. And then the Pelicans in a pick'em at Portland. Another team on a back-to-back here. So, I mean, the Celtics coming off a loss at the Knicks where they really just shot an unbelievable, just could not make an unbelievable amount of open threes. That's the biggest takeaway, right? Is that the Knicks did not, like we were saying in the video, we expected some positive regression in terms of them giving up good looks from three, and it just didn't come. And they're still elite in terms of limiting opponents' three-point percentage, and we'll talk about that in the Nets video, but how much of that is just Boston saying, okay, we trust our system. We're getting the looks. And they had a few pushes there to get back in that game. Couldn't quite pull it off. But now they face Cleveland, which is a real packet-in defense that has surprisingly been inefficient guarding the three-point line all year. I mean, you look at their road home stuff, and it's pretty evident. I mean, they're 9-17 on the road on the year, 2-10 as road dogs. And they're actually pretty bad guarding the three-point line even at home in terms of percentage. 18th versus 25th on the road. Second to last in their last 3 here, giving up 46%. And if you look at the sample size of 8 games, they do give up the fewest three-point attempts and one of the fewest makes, but again, 5th highest percentage. So to me, that reads like if you're a team that they'll run you off the line, they want to run you into their rim protectors. But if you're a team that can make the extra pass, that can penetrate and kick and keep it moving, which is the Celtics' MO 100%, you can get really good looks against Cleveland. You can knock down a high percentage. I mean, I don't need to talk about how Boston is, the best three-point shooting team in the league when they get it going and how much that is correlated to their success. So these teams played 2 overtime games early in the season. I think you can kind of just like punt those out the window in terms of just not looking like the same team. I mean, the first game, Karis LeVert matched Donnie Mitchell with 41 points, if you remember, in Boston for an overtime win. The last 6, by the way, Karis LeVert under 4 points per game with 23 minutes. He's just a non-factor. Can't stay in the rotation for the Cavs. Second meeting, Boston struggled a little bit from 3, but got 27 free throw attempts. Something to look at there. Donnie Mitchell regressed a little bit from that 41 points and shot 40% from the field. And so, I mean, Donnie, last 8 road games, not particularly impressive, 23 points per game with a 111 rating. And to me, if he's not cooking, I mean, I don't necessarily trust Darius Garland to completely carry this offense, and the Cavs are just not a good offensive team when they don't have those guys cooking. Kevin Love no longer on the squad. Karis LeVert no longer a member of the rotation, like I said. So I know this was the same take against the Knicks, and the Celtics did not come through, but I trust their depth. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon is playing out of his mind. He's the sixth man of the year, and at home, they're just going to be primed to bounce back here. 13-2 straight up at home since they lost 4 in December. So it's just a question for me of, do you think they can cover 5 points? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to win this game.
Wow, yeah. Love the confidence. I hold that same level of confidence about my Knicks that we'll talk about in that other game video. So, maybe you want to proceed with caution based on those factors. But I don't know as much. I believe in the Cavs a bit more than you right now, just because I think when you look at the games that they've lost, I mean, I know they lost 3 in a row there. Some pretty tough games though. Right before the break versus the Sixers, and then coming out of the break versus the Nuggets, who were they were favored against at home, which was hilarious. And then the Hawks as well, who I guess are really, really good again on offense at least. And then, yeah, they beat a Raptors team that they should beat, and it's a little bit, sloppy there. So, I mean, if you look at the teams they beat versus who they don't beat, it does seem like those, they're not matching up with the conference, the top of the conference on either side quite as well, and playing against those teams above 500 like they were at the very beginning of the season when they picked up these 2 dubs against the Celtics at home. I kind of, or not at home. One was in Boston, obviously, that very early in the season, but that was sort of their coming out party. Either way, this one, I kind of look at some at the over, to be honest. I mean, it's a very low total. I understand that the Cavs are a good sort of pack it in, play solid defense kind of team. But I think the way that these 2 teams are playing as of, well, at least even when when the Cavs are playing on the road, I should say more specifically, you just see them going over a bit more. The games that have been going over in their last roughly like 10 games, 8 games or so, actually just in their last 7, hitting 5 overs in their last 7, just 2 games on the road, but both those going over, and definitely, most of these games going over the 219 and a half total that we see here between these 2 teams. I mean, it's a little bit surprising if you're basing anything on how they played the first 2 games of this season. Both those totals went well over 219 and a half. Even the game that they played in November in Cleveland, which not where this game is and where Cleveland's much better on defense. When they played this game in Cleveland, even it was still 227. The pace was still at like 97. And when you look at the game on the road in Boston for Cleveland, that game reached that 255 total and had a pace of 98.2, which is fast for Cleveland for sure, when they are used to playing closer to 96 for most of the time in the season, especially at home as well, like we talk about consistently. And yeah, the road splits for them, I think it is, to your point, they're going to give up threes if you take them. But guys, they do seem to close out well, but that's just not, it doesn't matter when you're playing against the Celtics and the way that they've been, passing the ball around the perimeter and really getting all those solid amount of threes on assisted 3-pointers as well. So it's not like they just need to come up and pull. Jaylen Brown, you still really haven't mentioned him. I think he was big in their loss to the Knicks. I mean, even if he is sometimes, a black hole and hard to play off of because he plays a lot of bully ball, I still think he's wildly important as that next guy. If Tatum doesn't have it the way he didn't have it against the Knicks, there's almost just like you have too many 3-point shooters. So the odds are that somebody's got to be hitting, which is helpful for the Celtics when they, are hitting threes like they are this season. Even when certain guys like Tatum might be off from deep, they have another guy, and Brown is just another guy that can get his own bucket that you need in those games where they couldn't even score 100 against the Knicks, who obviously still actually have been a lot better on defense, especially since Mitchell Robinson came back. But either way, I think this is a good opportunity for points on both sides. I know Jaylen Brown helps out the defense a bit, but I think the offense is going to be a bit more, believe in the Cavs on the road where they do tend to go over way more. And this total is just way too low for me, which I understand why people think that, but I'm just on the opposite side of that.
Yeah, you're right. I did not mention Jaylen Brown, and while I think he definitely was missed against the Knicks, I think he's more important in this matchup because you have to operate in the mid-range areas against the Cavs. And I think he will provide a big spark for the Celtics offense that, like you said, just sputtered to a halt at the Knicks. I mean, they're over in 6 of their last 8 at home, scoring 119, shooting 41% from deep and hitting 19 threes. So that makes me very interested in the over as well, as it drops another point here. I think you got a good angle there. 20 and 10 to the over at home are the Celtics, and the Cavs, I mean, their offense struggles a little, 5 points per game fewer on the road, which is why I lean towards Celtics winning. But their defensive rating is also 7 points higher. And yeah, just the overwhelming depth of the Celtics, I think, will lead to enough points here. I will say again, 17-4 in their last 21 at home with Marcus Smart. They just snapped their streak with him a 10-game win streak at the Knicks, but they've just been extremely, put together at home when they have their leader, and I think they win this game. I mean, the Nets, you don't have to twist my arm to talk about fading the Nets right now. I think if anyone watching the show knows that this is my favorite futures bet. I expect them to continue to regress. And even though they came out on fire basically against Milwaukee that last time, they just collapsed in the second half. And that's all you need to know about a team that just lacks the closers, that's relied on the identity of having two of the best closers in the game for a couple of years now, and now they just got Spencer Dinwiddie, and that's about it. So I mean, they go 4 for 19 from three in the second half, and we talked in the other video about the Knicks and how they are giving up a kind of a stunning amount of uncontested threes and sort of getting lucky in that regard. So I mean, that could come home to roost in this game. In which case, maybe you do get an over. I'm not going to touch that total because I'm scared of the Nets offense. I think it's one of the worst in the league right now. And Jacques Vaughn is a defensive-minded coach and has been for a while. You've just had, again, two transcendent offensive players making their offense go. The Knicks at -7.5 here. I don't know if they're going to have the same intensity they just brought for that Celtics game. This is prime teaser situation for me. I do like the Celtics to win, and I think if you want them at -1 and the Knicks at -3, that's a good way to just coordinate this. Or if you want that Celtics total even lower at 214 and take the over there. But look, the Nets back-to-back situation. I've lost 2 in a row in that spot. I've lost 5 of their last 6 overall with just scoring 106 points per game. Just not going to get it done against a Knicks offense that you talk about not needing to coach them. Jalen Brunson is just carving people up. I mean, there's nothing Marcus Smart could do with him. I guess you put Mikal Bridges on him, and he might do a slightly better job there. But I mean, he's just got every counter in the book right now. And with Mitchell Robinson back, the Knicks defense is pretty scary as well. I think they're going to win a 7th in a row here. I mean, they just handled the Nets a couple weeks ago, and they could easily do that again.
Yeah, I'm banking on it. So has the folks that have been betting on the Knicks since this opened. Just a few points, but enough to know that no one really has confidence in the Nets, and we don't even know who might be out for them tonight. Ben Simmons, I guess, could play. Yuta Watanabe has been out a bit as well. I don't really know, but I guess I don't really care. It's been bad for the Nets and really good for the Knicks, and that's been this game right here has been in this matchup, and how much better the Knicks are has been the reason, one of the main reasons that we've been so bullish on the Nets and fading them, right, and making futures bets all over the place as much as we can, that they're going to be a part of the play-in. You love that they're not even going to make the playoffs, and to be honest, once they get into the play-in, if they've got to win 2 games because we see them losing that first one, let's say they're a 7 or an 8 seed and they got to play the Hawks or the Raptors or something like that, who do you like more? I definitely like the Hawks more than the Nets. And then what you use, the Wizards or the Nets. The fact that we're even talking about it in a way that we're that's for sure a toss-up, if not slight favorite for a team that has Bradley Beal on it, that can close versus this Nets team. So that's really, it's emblematic of everything we're talking about here in terms of why the Knicks are better than them. The reason I love the Knicks, the reason I love Jalen Brunson is a point guard and an identity. And yes, Julius Randle is awesome, and he's the all-star. Do what you want with that, and has been incredible even in all season long. In his last 5 games, averaging 28 a game because he's got a 46-pointer in there, and so playing awesome. But at the end of the game, when you need a bucket, as you said, unassisted field goal, Jalen Brunson maestro. That's what the Knicks are winning on, and that's why they've also in their win streak got the fewest assists per game. They've got the fewest assists overall. They've got the fewest assisted field goals because they don't just not needed. The spacing works the way that they have it right now. Josh Hart doesn't need the ball, and honestly, Josh Hart is what RJ Barrett's ceiling might become if RJ Barrett decides to become a hustle player to that degree, because, he does everything well without needing the ball in his hands. RJ Barrett doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, but the problem is he's not a great spot up shooter. I don't want to get too far into that. He hasn't been as helpful as they need, but the whole point of what I'm making here is 121 points in this 6-game win streak for the Knicks while only allowing 106 a game, and blowing teams out. And that's why even in this trend of them only being 9-11 against the spread when they're home favorites, like in this situation, they're still winning those games by 6.5 points, basically what this spread is at and where it started. And so I still like them at the sizzling pace that they're playing to be able to handle this team. And you talk about the way that Brooklyn scores now. They need to hit threes, and you saw it in the game against the Bucks. In the first half, they were winning by 10 points. They were 8 for 17 from three. In the second half, they lost by 25 points, 67-42, and they hit 4 of 19 threes. So that's it. That's the game plan, right? It's Spencer Dinwiddie occasionally trying to go off the dribble, kicking it out to Bridges and Johnson and whomever else is out there, and just shoot, pull, and pray, and that's the game plan. The Knicks are the number one rebounding team in the last 6 and most of the season, or top 3 most of the season. That defensive rating is back to where you want it to be. There was a time maybe 3 or 4 games ago where you could get points in the paint against the Knicks as they dropped down to like 14th or 15th in terms of allowing points in the paint to their opponent. Then Mitchell Robinson came right back in the last 3 games, and as his minutes have gone up, so has their ability to stop points in the paint back up to 5th best in the league over their last 6. They are limiting threes. Do what you will with the fact that I call it karma. If James Dolan is going to continue to own the Knicks and ruin our franchise at his every whim whenever he can, then we should be allowed to have other teams not make open threes. I think that's our return on the investment of having a shitty odor, because for the last 3 seasons, uncontested field goals do not go in against the Knicks, especially from deep. In that game versus the Celtics, we know how awful they were from 3, but I will say I think 33% of their shots were uncontested from deep, and they couldn't do anything with that. So there is a lot to like for the Knicks in this one. I know it's a little bit bigger of a spread, and it's almost like, is this one of those weird games where the Nets might be that frisky team they were a couple times since the trade? I'm not really worried about it. I think even at the end of the game, if this thing is close, the Knicks can get theirs, get their buckets, and get their stops, and then hit their free throws to cover 8 points.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 key categories that the Knicks are very similar to the Bucks, which is exactly why this is the same take as yesterday, saying the Bucks are going to rebound the basketball and score without needing to get assists here. They can win their individual matchups, and that's exactly what the Knicks can do. And the Nets, they just don't have that same kind of firepower. It's also kind of like that, that late revenge factor that the Nets were beating up on the Knicks when they had those 2 guys, and now it's the Knicks' turn. And we just saw how they popped up to beat the Celtics the second time in a row. I think with Josh Hart on the team, your second favorite, Nick, they will continue with that edge and treat this game very seriously, so that it makes me less worried about that sort of frisky game, as you say, where the favorite it lapses a little and says, "Oh, we're playing a cupcake." I think the Knicks will come to play here.
Yeah, they've got to hit 17 threes to win this game. The Nets do, and they need the Knicks to be below average on offense. So all of that taken into consideration, I really like the Knicks here. Maybe you do want to take, if I were going to combine this Knicks and Celtics game, I'd probably just parlay those money lines and feel pretty good about it. If I just didn't want the headache of dealing with any of these spreads, which I would feel fine with just as much as a tease at that point. But might as well take the parlay, probably get you back down to minus 120 on that. Still really like that for both those teams to win. Definitely like the Knicks even more, to be honest with you, as that spread keeps climbing. So hopefully you guys are able to hit it. Another friendly PSA to hit those lines the day before the game when they start coming out, and you can see them and before people start hitting them. So Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first NBA play a prop.
Yeah, there's a lot of games tonight, but not a lot of props up yet with
True.
a lot of back-to-backs. So we are picking from what we got here in the morning. And I expect Jimmy Butler to bring it again against the Sixers. It's go time for the Heat. I know he's disappointed us before when we said it's go time, but now it's really go time. It's March. There's a month left. They got to fight their way up the standings here. And in his last 4 home games, he's averaging 23.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists. That's pretty much exactly what he averages last 3 against the Sixers in the regular season. including 23, 11, and 9 on Monday, which is, vintage Jimmy, if you will. It's just not Jimmy loafing through the middle of the season that we had seen before, where suddenly his peripheral stats are just not there. So I do think he gets over 32.5 PRA tonight. I like the 27.5 points rebounds if you want to remove the assists, because Philly is 28th in rebounding on the year, and nobody but Embiid is basically an above average rebounder. They're also 28th in fast break points allowed. Jimmy can definitely get out and score. He can create his own turnovers or score off turnovers. And it's a bit of a revenge game. He does get up to face Philly, one of his former teams, and 21 plus in 7 of his last 8 at home against the Sixers. His rebounds also really spiked when they played each other in the playoffs last year, helping Miami pull through. So that is why I like the points and the rebounds most here, because I think it's a bit of a playoff vibe here. Miami's got a real stacked schedule the next couple weeks, including these back-to-back with the Sixers.
Yeah, it's a good call as far as this game. I mean, obviously we just saw this one not too long ago, and the Heat definitely felt pretty good in that one. I think in this game, for me, I'm actually already just going to move on to my other prop because I think it's relevant here. You go Jimmy over, I go Bam under 28.5 PRA. It is minus 115 on DraftKings. It kind of tells me it's been bet both ways to get to that about even money, but which I don't love doing when I see those minus 115 numbers. But in his last 4 regular season games versus Philly, 14.8 points, 9.5 boards, 3.5 assists, right? Does not get you to that 29 that you need there. Still about 3 total under. That's all in about 33.5 minutes with a 24% usage. He's got about the 25% usage on the season. He's gone over this prop once in those last 4, and that was when Embiid did not play. And in his last 6 versus Philly in the regular season, he's gone over that twice. Embiid didn't play in that other game as well. So I think, I'm sorry, he did play. He played for like 16 minutes and then he got hurt and came out. So, and that was like a season and a half ago. So point being, if Joel's in there, it's just a different game for Bam. All the places that Philly's kind of weak and vulnerable, they've gotten better, by the way, at limiting rebounds and second chance points over their last 5 or 6 games at least. And that's going to be huge. That's where Bam scores all of his points. He doesn't get any of those fast break points that you're talking about. So not really worried about the fact that Philly has been awful and continues to be awful. Getting back on defense, unsurprising when you have James Harden on your team that you're not getting back on defense. Bam over his last 5 overall, 17.5 points and just 7 boards, 3 assists. You're seeing a lot of other guys get in there and crash the boards as well for the Heat, who have the best rebounding guards in the league. And then Philly third in limiting centers points, 8th in limiting their rebounds. As bad as they are, and rebounding as a team, Joel's doing his job and getting everybody out of the way, and that's who he's going to be boxing out tonight is Bam. So I feel much better about him being held in check a little bit more than in other games where he's able to get some more rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, his job is going to be focusing on the defensive end, where he's, was able to limit Embiid the last time they played, and good job by you calling the under there. Now we go down for Embiid's prop from 32 to 29.5, and I would be interested in the over. I just don't think you can hold him down that long in consecutive matchups, but I think either way, yeah, you could take the under on Bam because it's going to be less of the counting stats and more of his defensive prowess here. Going with the former number 2 pick, cast off James Wiseman, now with Detroit, on an absolute tanking Detroit team that will give him as many minutes as they want. But, he's still working his way in there. He did have a nice 23-7 his last time out against Charlotte. Much easier matchup than Chicago, I suppose, which has a great team defensive rating over the last couple of weeks, but they're still giving up the 5th most points per game to centers in that span. I mean, Vucevic, not really known for his interior defense. Wiseman is at 13.5 points, even money here. He's averaging exactly 13 in 4 appearances with Detroit, along with 8 boards per game. I do think the boards, if you want to combine them at 21.5 points and rebounds, that's definitely in play. The odds are not as good. Or plus 200 for a double-double, which he's done in one of these 4 games with Detroit. Because I don't think Chicago's offense is very impressive. Even against this Detroit defense, I think there'll be plenty of rebounding opportunities. And I do think he can vacuum them up with that huge wingspan. as he tries to, establish a foothold in the NBA here. This is a big stretch for him.
Yeah, that's great. I guess I don't know. I never thought we would be taking James Wiseman, but they're low, and he's the only person out there. And you know that even when they're down by 20 points they were down to the Hornets the other night, Wiseman's just going to be out there getting those garbage time stats like any good awful NBA 2K player does when his team's down by like 100 and just tries to pat those stats. That's basically James Wiseman. So I don't know why you wouldn't feel good about that. I expect them to be down again, even though, this is a game that I suppose that they could be hanging around in. I don't expect it to happen. So Gordo or Scary Terry, we're talking about some Hornets players with LaMelo out. Really sad that he's back out same night that LeBron went out. So that was a crappy night for the NBA, and just 4 games were going on that night. But anyway, I think it's time to take one of those two guys. I like Gordo. I like them both. I'll start with Hayward and the guy I probably prefer. You're getting minus 105 on DraftKings for him to get 18 points. It's a little bit like minus 112 for him to get 22 and a half points and rebounds. In his last 5, since, he's been back and getting those minutes back up to 30 and above in the last 5, 21 and a half points, 6 boards, and 32 minutes. So like I said, as long as he's getting those minutes, he's got 59-53 splits. Only putting up about 3 threes a game, but making like 1.5 of them, and shooting, like I said, about 60% from the field as a small forward. So that's pretty impressive. That 24% usage. When LaMelo's not in, both these guys, Gordon's stats go up a bit. He does get a few more assists when LaMelo's not in there. But I also just like the rebounds tonight in that game versus the Suns that probably, I know the Hornets will try to speed it up a bit, and we'll see KD. So maybe there's a few more points available in this game overall. But I do think, Hayward's a decent bet, even though the Suns are much better at guarding small forwards in his position than they are guards. Guards is where they give up points. So I would look at Terry as well. He is a little bit more. I think you can get 21 and a half or 22 and a half on his points on books there. Use that odds finder tool on thelines.com so you can get the best juice from him. When LaMelo's out in his last 11, Scary Terry, 25 a game, 4.5 boards, 5.5 assists. So I know you like the 33.5 points and rebounds for him at minus 102 on FanDuel. I'll let you talk about Terry here a little bit more, as I kind of do like Gordo, but this is a better matchup for a guard of Terry's position against the Suns.
Yeah, I mean, actually, what I like is over 2.5 turnovers for Terry Rozier. It's what we talk about. If there is a bet for missed field goals, I would be all over that for Terry Rozier, because he's just going to have elevated usage. He's going to take bad shots, and he's going to be a volume scorer, though, with that 29% usage rate his last 11 without LaMelo. You talked about worrying about the blowout here with Phoenix at Charlotte, and I think that makes it a little scarier to take Scary Terry. With some pretty high props. I think I like Gordo in terms of just scoring there, as you pointed out. But really, I want to bring up, you were thinking under on Durant in his debut, 20.5 points, and I am absolutely not on board with that. No, thank you. I think Kevin Durant might play 19 minutes in a blowout tonight, and he will score 25 points. It's like he's been resting that knee. He is ready to go at this point, we can assume. And a Charlotte team without Jalen McDaniels anymore, it might as well just be, warm up 1-on-0 drills for him. And he is just like going to just drain mid-range shots all over whatever, measly defender is trying to guard him. It's a first team, debut with the new team, going to show them what he can do, which is just get buckets, at least a point per minute. So I would take the over on Durant there.
Yeah, I'm down for a gentleman's bet on that one for sure. We'll throw that up as an asterisk there on the props that I tweet out as a fun one, because I just see it going the other way. I maybe he gets 18, maybe even 19, but I don't think he gets 21 tonight, as I think that he's just going to not be able to play enough minutes, even if he gets 10 field goal attempts. Was he can make every single shot? Like, I just don't think it's necessarily going to be that for him tonight, where he's going to be taking it easy. But that's really just the prediction that we have to make here. Is what do you think the game flow is going to be? Get him in early and show what he can do and scare teams away right away by dropping 140 points, or limit it and let him come back a little bit more easily. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along as we look to stay wicked hot on these player props with you guys. And until we see you next, happy betting.